Welcome to Drivers Talk Radio, hosted by automotive expert and championship-winning race car driver Rick Titus. Join Rick, co-host Jay Dalton, and their team for informative and entertaining discussions geared for automotive enthusiasts and consumers alike. Enjoy in-depth interviews with industry leaders and influencers. Now, originating from its studio headquarters inside Shelby American in Las Vegas, it's time for Drivers Talk Radio and Rick Titus.
And thank you so much for joining us. I'm Rick Titus, and this is Drivers Talk, coming to you from the absolutely stunning facility here at Shelby American, just off the Las Vegas Strip here in Las Vegas, just south of Mandalay Bay. You can't miss this place. Tours are free, gift shop is awesome, and you end up out on the shop floor watching them build Shelby Mustangs and, well, of course, the pickup trucks and on and on and on. Awesome experience, great place, huge museum with great stuff in it. That said, of course, joining me in studio is the producer and co-host of the program, Jay Dalton.
Hi, I'm very excited about what we're doing today.
Yeah, we've had some fun already, and
yes, we've test-driven something you will have
there's
never
a reason
heard
all
of.
three of us have our hair somewhat askew, and we're anxious to share that with you. And of course, the gentleman who does the engineering and the co-producing this program, Spencer Crick, in his Helen Keller yellow shirt.
Yeah, you can hear me from a mile away.
Yes, you can. That's right.
Please, Spencer, keep it down.
As long as we don't smell you, that's okay, buddy. It's all good. Of course, we're in a business that has a lot going on. You know, Jay, everybody would love to have a piece of the pickup truck market.
Wow.
Everybody.
You've got my top story, too. Go ahead.
Okay,
Go ahead.
Well, I was very excited to see, because I generally, we know enough about pickup trucks where we don't generally welcome newcomers because they don't get it. And I understand this isn't going to play at the same level, but gosh darn it, Volkswagen introduced a really spectacular-looking concept vehicle was it Frankfurt, I believe?
Based on the Atlas platform.
Atlas platform. This thing's a good-looking truck, and the word truck might be a little heavily overused here, but it's got a pickup bed, and it's got the prerequisite 4 doors for the cab, but it's good-looking.
You know, above Ram, Silverado, F-150, and F-Series.
Yeah.
That defines a pickup truck.
I concur, yes.
From that level down, I think it's an open playing field.
I do too.
You know, of course, the Tacoma, the world famous Toyota Tacoma, one of the best-selling midsize pickup trucks ever made.
Right.
Huge dominance of this market.
And people going after that market segment, buddy.
People going after that, but there seems to be a redefinition beyond the Tacoma, beyond what Ranger will become.
Right.
Beyond Canyon and beyond the other one. I can't remember.
I can't either.
I can't remember.
Colorado.
There will be a different definition, one that we are watching take place. And my story, your story is about Volkswagen and what they just showed off. My story is not so fast. Not so fast is, not so fast. Hyundai, who started showing their concept in 2005.
That's been around a while, yeah.
Excuse me, I misspoke. 2015.
Yeah, I was going to say, excuse me, I think newer than that.
2015, they showed their first concept vehicle, the Santa Cruz crossover truck, and it was spectacular. The amount of reaction they got from that concept truck. They showed it at the Detroit show. Not a bad show to show off a pickup truck in the middle of Detroit.
Yeah, it's a fairly bold move in all fairness, but I don't know.
Hey, 2 years goes by.
Yeah.
Nearly 2 years goes by. Dave Zukowski, that used to be the CEO of Hyundai, he got booted because he couldn't keep up with the sales because his car sales started going down. He thought, gee, I can't get anything better than to add a truck to my lineup at Hyundai. So he announced somewhat prematurely the green light of the project going forward to arrive as a 2018 or 19 model and announced it would be coming soon. Well, he lost his job.
Yeah, other than that, I'm pretty sure he's excited he announced it.
So the board approved it a year later from his suggestion that it had been green lit. They waited a year to get that done. And now apparently it will be in the showroom floors in 2020. So they are coming, but my goodness, they've dragged their feet with this one.
It's interesting to me, though. There's two things. A, it's very, very cowardly the way these get introduced. You and I both know they're test marketing. When we see them this refined, like the Volkswagen, like you said with the Hyundai, we know they're test marketing. And they always say, well, no, we're not going to, we just wanted to show people. That's the first proof they're building it, okay? In both cases, we think both these are definitely coming. But it's going to be a very interesting, highly stylized segment. Probably the best-looking pickup trucks of all will come out of this group of trucks.
You know, sadly, who's going to lose with this is Ridgeline, Honda Ridgeline.
Yeah, it's a shame because I like that little truck.
They will, in effect, they'll be behind the 8-ball in styling and realize they went more truck, less style.
Yeah.
And they're going to get caught out because this end of the market down in the crossover, what's going to be turned crossover truck?
Yeah.
I guess that means front-wheel
Cross
drive and no frame and limited
Well, we
capacity.
knew Monocoque was coming. We tried to tell people for the longest time it's going to happen. Spencer Mann.
Hey, do you think all these new mid-sized trucks are going to influence the Tacoma at all? Or is Toyota just going to say, we've still got the best-selling mid-sized truck? We're not changing a thing.
They will not change a thing. That's my vote. My vote is absolute. They will stay 100% the same, if not look more trucky.
Well, they are the Delta, so that, you know, that makes for a very convincing argument not to spend money in a big hurry, you know, on stylizing. But it always, to me, comes back to what's the market doing, and are we starting to lose share? You start to lose 6%, 7% share, you're changing something. So we'll see. I don't think they'll change it until they have to.
Remembering a little piece of information that I shared during this topic a few shows back, and that is the Tacoma is the #1 vehicle for resale value. The highest resale value after 3 years and 5 years of any other vehicle sold in America. So there's plenty of demand.
Wow.
Plenty.
Well, listen, it's all going to be very, very interesting. But I thought it was kind of. I thought Volkswagen surprised people. I certainly did not anticipate a pickup truck coming beyond that little rabbit thing they did years ago, back in the late '80s. But but I don't want to use the term a real pickup truck, but a really close to real pickup truck from Volkswagen. They've got the motors, they've got the engines to pull it. It's just how much hoof can they give it? You know what I mean?
It's really what you expect it to do.
Yeah.
Can you get a dirt bike in there?
Oh yeah.
Can you get lumber in there from Home Depot?
I think so.
Or firewood, you know, or would you use it for that? Or would you just use it for your canoe or your bike?
Your kayak, you're
Your
thinking?
kayak,
yeah.
yes.
Hard telling, you know. In a market where looks sell more than the capability, it's going to be a different answer than we're used to.
Where looks and connectivity sells everything.
Yeah.
And, by the way, it tows 1,000 pounds.
But if
Okay.
you're a jet skier, and there's lots of jet skiers.
You mean personal watercraft.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. I wasn't
Sorry, jet skis. I mean, they've been out so long. I remember knowing guys that took a jet ski, sunk like $5,000 to $10,000 into hot rod equipment on a jet ski, and then they turn around and they go, "Hey, I've got this really fast jet ski," and everybody goes, "Who wants a jet ski?" To stand on a jet ski? No. They're all sit downs.
That's
now.
what Marquade said.
Yes. You have to. If you're riding on it, not standing on it or kneeling on it, jet skis are gone. I mean, that's prehistoric past, man.
So listen, we get a lot of story tips out of Automotive News. It's the insider industry publication. It's certainly not cheap to subscribe to, but we get a lot of the early news and really deep inside news oftentimes. But every once in a while, we give them a story idea, I think. We did a thing on supercars not too many episodes ago. Guess what? They just did an issue on supercars.
They must have been listening.
But yeah, that's what I keep telling myself. I have no idea if they were listening or not. But they, too, address how big this market has become and how, if you're not going 250 mile an hour, you're considered a slowpoke in the segment. Really.
So a couple weekends ago, in fact, on April 22nd, there was the 30th edition.
Isn't that your birthday?
That's Earth Day, Rick. Earth Day.
Oh, really? I thought it was your birthday.
It's the Queen's English held in Woodley Park. It's the once-a-year British car show where you show up, and for a few bucks you can show your car. There's no trophies or anything.
Right.
It's literally like a big get-together picnic sort of
Pretty
thing.
fun, and then they put down oil dry after everybody leaves.
The oil just soaks into the grass. Right?
That's right.
There must have been 800 cars there over that weekend.
How many for sale signs? 400?
No, a couple, but not that many. You'd be surprised. Plenty of what you would expect. MGs, Austin Healey's, Triumphs, Minis, Sunbeams, Jaguars. You expect all of that.
Right.
That's happening. But vintage Land Rovers, there must have been 15 vintage Land
Oh,
Rovers.
really?
There.
Okay.
Yes.
Triumph Stags? Any Triumph Stags?
I saw Triumph Stag, a couple of them. Vintage Morgans, there must have been 20 Morgans, some three-wheelers.
Well, Morgans are
some
kind of
late
hot right
cars.
now. Yeah.
That's Morgan is happening.
Yeah, Morgan is happening.
But what really impressed me, 50 old Lotus cars. You ever seen 50 Lotus cars together? Maybe once in my life.
Yeah, at the pier, at the dock, maybe, but never as they came in.
50 Lotus cars. One was a new one. All of them other were old.
Were they but was
Ready?
it a Lotus 7, Lotus Elite?
4 race cars with license plates on them.
Oh, really?
A Lotus 23 with a license plate that just took me back. A Lotus 23 is comes up to about your knee.
Best case, yeah.
And it's very well known for the triangular tail lights or air exhale vents out of the back of it. I've never seen one. Also, they had really interesting wheels, kind of those wobbly shaped wheels back in the day. I've never seen one licensed for the street. I thought it was fantastic.
I wouldn't think it'd be a great street car, but okay. I mean, I love Lotus 23s.
Tony Adamowitz's old Lotus Cortina, full roll cage in it, licensed for the street.
Pretty famous guy. If you know
Lotus 11. Lotus 11 with a big tail fin on it, from the 50s, late 50s.
Some good stuff there.
A couple of those, now they're recreated by Westfield.
Yes, you can buy them.
But licensed for the street.
We got to go to break. We'll more on this when we come back. AM/FM listeners, please join us in just a few moments. And welcome back to Driver's Talk. Rick Titus, Jay Dalton, and Spencer Crick. And of course, we are discussing industry news, which is one of our favorite topics, because it shows you how quickly this business moves and how much is actually going on in it, Jay.
Yes, indeed.
Now, you were at any more cars, exotic cars at that show? Because I love that show. That park is in. Is that technically Van Nuys or what? What is that?
I'm not sure what. I think it's Van Nuys. But it hosts an awful lot of car shows. We have been to various car shows.
I agree.
We've shown cars there. Interestingly enough.
Well, mine broke down there, so I thought I'd go ahead and show it since I was there.
What we're talking about is a famous Woodley Park in Los Angeles, where they put on a number of shows, including the Mopar Spring Fling, something called the Best of France and Italy. That attracts a lot of French and Italian cars and motorcycles. It's just great. And something called the Queen's English, where they recently had about 800 cars on display. Very enthusiastic group, well turned out, and about 50 old Lotus cars, including Lotus Elans, Lotus Cortinas, a couple of Sevens, a couple of elites,
early
elites, and they ran, which is really a surprise.
I was just going to say, a guy with jumper cables and a gallon of gasoline and a can of oil could have made a lot of money there.
I'm telling you. Now, I had a 64 Elan. That was a very early car for me.
Yep.
I very, very rarely see a 64 Elan. They're too early.
Yeah.
A lot of them were scrapped. But 65, 67 Elans or something else. Man, you look at that car now, and that is, that's really kind of a rough car.
It's a rough car.
Really rough.
It's a darn small car too.
It is. Don't try to get into a Europa.
Yeah.
If you're 5'10", you're not getting a Europa.
No.
It's amazing. Anyway, it was a legacy that
a friend of ours had a Lotus Europa. He was sitting at a stoplight. The passenger door fell off while he was sitting at the light.
Another friend of mine had a Europa, and the rear window fell out.
Yeah,
literally fell out, left the car. It's like he's on the freeway.
Quality machine.
Whoop, rear window just went. Well, I guess I'm driving to the dealer now.
I know,
guess
but the Lotus,
I hadn't
they're just
planned
so neat.
on that.
It's still a neat car, though.
Anyway, there were so many problems with that car.
Oh, my
Which
gosh.
reminds me, when you had cars like that, it was an adventure. The car required your involvement.
Yes.
You never just came and put the key in the car.
No.
It was, what's that oil on the ground?
Well, and they were the world's best built-in excuse, because if you didn't want to go somewhere, just say my car broke down on the way, and because you had a Lotus, everyone believed you.
Along with Bert Kernoodle, it was my automotive training. Let me tell you.
That's right.
Did it come with a 10 warranty, 10 minutes or 10 miles?
Now, if you bought the extended plan, yes.
I'll tell you what mine came with, since you brought that up. My Lotus Elan came with a damaged front end from hitting something, which I repaired. But also behind
And
the
then hit
driver's
something
seat,
again with it.
behind the driver's seat, there was an open spot in the fiberglass where you could put your hand. If you were inside the car, you could reach around the seat and put your hand behind, and you could touch the suspension. You could touch the half shafts. You know why? Because the rubber donuts that used to replicate universal joints, but they were rubber donuts shaped like a big rubber donut, would become deteriorated, come loose, and during hard acceleration, you'd be going, and a half shaft would start flying around, an inboard half shaft, and it would literally take out all the fiberglass behind the seat. So the first thing you look for in looking for an Elan is, has that back panel been repaired? Well, the guy's lost a half shaft. Okay, well, and if the back panel isn't damaged, then replace those donuts right away. Yeah. So it's that kind of thing, that kind of thrill, mechanical challenge, mechanical gamesmanship that you would enjoy playing with a car like that. And those days are gone. I mean, now it's like...
In our green room is Jerome Forsala, who's just let us drive his toy that he's now in charge of. I don't know if I know you have appointments. Can you stick around, or you got to go? Got to go. All right, we got to get you back here for our next recording.
Our fourth segment is going to feature what Jerome Vassallo, our dear friend, is now trying to promote around the country. And I'm just going to give you an advance hint. This is a tease for segment 4. Just Google Vanderhall.
Yep.
Vanderhall. That's all you got. That's all I'm saying. We're going to get to it in just a few minutes.
Could look under extreme fun, too.
Do you have any other stories there, Ricky, or can I talk about one?
Just some of my report card excuses, but no, go for it.
Hey, you know, with diesel taking a hike, with diesel literally falling off a cliff in Europe, diesel car sales are not only no longer incentivized in Europe, but they're now trying to figure out what taxes they can put onto diesels in addition to raising the price of the fuel. So, in the UK, diesel sales are off 30%.
Ouch.
This has fallen off a cliff. Europe really doesn't want to have anything to do with them anymore. And of course, we're talking about diesel cars.
Right.
This is where Porsche and Mercedes are jumping in with the electrification of their vehicles.
In a big
Porsche
way.
in a big way.
For
sure.
In a big way, yeah.
Britain is now talking about a higher registration fee, knocking it up the ladder of registration fees for as soon as 2018.
Wow.
And also additional congestion charges, placing a higher tariff on polluting vehicles, maybe 10 pounds higher when you go into a congestion zone. Now that, man, there's nothing that will rile up an owner.
But they've learned the lesson the hard way, particularly from the early diesels. I mean, literally eating the faces off statues, and the architecture of buildings just being eroded away by diesel, particularly in the early days.
That's the nitrous oxide.
Yeah, it's really been punishing. And
hey, man, so what's coming up? What do you think is coming back into the conversation as a replacement? Believe it or not, propane.
wow, really?
Propane gas is now back in the conversation because diesel...
In Europe and England, or here as well?
Europe and England, I don't think we're going to revisit it. But I just want to remind people, when we talk about LPG or propane as a fuel for an internal combustion engine, we're not talking about natural gas. We're not talking about the stuff at your house. That's NCG,
right.
Compressed natural gas.
Right.
Propane has a much higher BTU content. It's 73% of the BTU, the concentrated energy of a gallon of gas. 73. It's ranked number 4 on the list. But I've got to read you the top 4 because you'll probably find this quite weird.
Lighter fluid? I don't know.
Close. Top 4 when it comes to energy content as a vehicle fuel. Diesel has the highest energy content, 128,000 BTU. Biodiesel, that's diesel that you make from fats, oils, restaurant sludge.
That's Willie Nelson diesel.
Willie Nelson diesel, exactly right. They have 120,000 BTU. Gasoline, 116,000. So the first 2 are diesel.
Yeah.
Then comes gasoline. Then comes liquid propane at 84 BTU.
That's a pretty big job.
Pretty big jump. Ready? Here's one that'll make you laugh. Hydrogen, if you burn it in your car, is ranked number 7, 51,000 BTU. Like nothing.
Yeah,
half.
Interesting.
More than half. Anyway.
But cleaner.
Much cleaner. And you think, well, who's going to do propane? Who does that? It's been around for years and years and years.
It has.
It's run fleets of trucks for years and years. But it's clean. It's less cost to run the vehicles. It's less nitrous oxide, far less carbon monoxide and particulates, far less. Forklifts, golf carts, it completely skirts all the state laws for smog devices.
Now, the question, and you're normally the guy that would be making this argument is, but are you using twice as much of it as a result to get the same job done?
Okay, has 73% of the bang for the buck.
Okay.
So if you can buy it cheaper than gas,
right,
it would work out economically on par.
Right.
If you can store an amount above what you would normally store in gasoline, it will go the same distance. Okay. So you just plan for somewhat less, but it's ranked number 4 in the hit parade right now. So who's doing it? Again, we're not talking about natural gas. Honda gave up that program on natural gas. The Civic GX killed years ago. Fuel maker with the home filling machine where you would plug it into your natural gas. Gone. Phil's gone. Now, Roush Cleantech has been around 10 years. Remember we interviewed Roush Cleantech?
I don't. Oh,
Jack Roush.
That's right.
Jack Roush Performance has been converting vehicles, converting fleets for 10 years.
Well, we didn't talk to Jack. We talked to somebody
the guy in Cleantech.
Yeah.
But this is viable if you want to come back and do it. I mean, it's not much more. This was in the day, by the way, when we first started playing with this. 30 years ago. We first started playing with this long before computers would move everything.
Right.
Computers would move the cams and move the timing and variable cam timing and all this. So you'd stick this carburetor-like thing on the top of the motor. It would introduce
all about that. That's right.
It would introduce the propane as if it was a carburetor, and you just have this high compression motor burn very clean, very high octane.
Some of the early drivabilities were not great off that system, as I recall, at low speed.
But it just used fuel like crazy. We drove a Civic GX up to the studio one day to record driver talks. I watched the fuel gauge go down.
Oh yeah,
like you could like a windshield
like you
wiper.
were driving a Firebird Trans Am.
Yeah, did that too.
Yeah, exactly. And that fuel gauge moved pretty quick as well.
It sure did.
Man.
It sure did. Hey man, let's do a station break, and we're going to come back and kind of talk a little bit about what I call modern retro. But let's see what's going on.
AM/FM listeners, we'll be right back. Please join us in just one moment. And welcome back to Driver's Talk. Rick Titus, Jay Dalton, Spencer Crick, coming to you from Shelby American right here in Las Vegas. Please swing on by. It won't cost you a penny. Well, till you see some of the cool stuff in the gift shop or you decide to buy a Shelby Mustang. But short of that, it won't cost you anything. What you got going there, buddy? I know you want to talk about this topic.
Well, I teased the topic by saying this is the modern retro show. There are companies out there now that celebrate the past with equipment that uses now very modern materials. To give you for instance, Morgan is a great example of this. You can still buy a Morgan freewheeler.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell our audience what a Morgan usually amounted to?
Well, in the very early days, it was kind of half plywood and half steel. They were basic engines, opposed 2 cylinders in the front.
In a V, like a Harley V.
Yeah, kind of like a Harley V.
Sideways.
Front-wheel drive. Crude and basic, but probably with a ton of character, knowing the British, and a lot of fun. And that company has existed for over 100 years, and they are back in their original facilities that they now bought back from the people who had bought it to lease out in other ways. And now Morgan picks up where it left off. Now, Morgan does have very modern sports cars as well, and they're quite rapid.
Modern with cross your fingers, because in fact it's still a Morgan, and they Morganize it. It's modern, but they Morganize it. So I first got kind of reconnected with Morgan. I'm at the post office, and I'm looking at here's a Morgan sitting in the parking lot of the post office, and I go, I didn't even know this was legal. Is it still legal to have a new Morgan 8, an Aero 8?
The Aero 8 is good looking too,
How do you get an Aero 8 in this? So I took a picture of it. Spencer, you'll put it up on our YouTube channel. You can
good looking car.
You can stream this show on our YouTube channel and find out what we're talking about. So it got me to thinking, well, what's Morgan doing exactly? About a month ago in Geneva, they introduced 2 additional cars. They showed 2 cars. Morgan Car Company showed 2 cars at Geneva. The Morgan Plus 850th Anniversary Edition, which included a track car edition, 50 of these.
That's very popular in England, by the way.
Race, man.
Yep.
Ready to go. Tow hooks and roll bars and everything.
Yep, and usually a spec series, yep.
Just incredible. And of course, the other car that they really wanted to emphasize was the 2018 Morgan Aero GT. There's going to be 8 of these made. 8.
Ooh, that sounds expensive.
I don't know how much it is.
I can assure you.
But this is old and wicked. This is like an angry old man chasing you down the sidewalk with his cane. He's just going to cane you. This thing goes 170 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Wow.
With what lift properties? Have we done any aero work here?
the aerodynamics of a bird cage, you know.
I was just going to say, those front fenders alone present an interesting issue, but okay. What do you got, Spence?
Just imagine going to test drive that thing, you first.
Yeah, exactly.
It is I can't believe I'm doing this. It is take 1970 and then make 70 like warp forward. Yeah. And with all, it's probably got carbon fiber brakes on it. I don't know. It's a very serious piece, but looks like an angry old man. It's just unbelievable.
Now, I know we're on Morgan, but I want to remind you, Jeanetta's very much alive, too, and they're building cars every day.
Is TVR still around? Is TVR resurfaced?
Allegedly, it's coming back. We'll see. Be it a car that won't resemble anything of the old days.
I'm at this English car event.
Now, see, Jay goes to the post office just to check the billboard, make sure he hasn't made any of the photos.
They don't have a billboard anymore. No, they don't have that. Morgan West was handing out flyers. This shows all the different, 3 of the 4 different vehicles.
The one looks like a Lotus. Yeah.
One's a Lotus 11 that they happen to want to sell. But they're down on Pico Boulevard in Santa Monica. And I mean, they have a whole host of 3-wheel Morgans, 4-wheel Morgans, Aero 8s, and all these things. And they're taking orders.
Showroom when I lived there.
They're taking orders for the vehicles. And I'm thinking, wow, this thing still rolls on.
But it's not free.
They are not free. They are not
inexpensive. They're not cheap
at all.
They that heritage comes at a price. It's kind of like a Vespa scooter. Vespa scooters are a lot of money.
So we have this show, Modern Retro. So that's the 3-wheel. That's the 4 wheels with Morgan and 3. How about 2 wheels? How about a vehicle called a Janus? Janus? I know. Already gotten its 2018 EPA approval, certified for sale in this country.
Wow.
A Janus motorcycle is made in Goshen, Indiana. I did not say India. I said northern
it's from.
Indiana. This is a 1930-ish looking motorcycle.
Early 30s, not late 30s even.
Early 30s. It is the simplicity of motorcycles. They have 3 different models that they're trying to promote. They have a 250cc engine. It happens to be a Chinese
Are the
engine.
models basic, really basic, and unbelievably basic? I mean, what are the 3 model names? I can't even imagine.
Oh, how about the Halcyon, the
Why
Griffin, which is a scrambler kind of looking, and a Phoenix, which is more of a racer looking vehicle. That's the Halcyon that I handed you.
Thank you.
Sparse, very direct styling. The weight.
Thank you, Chris Bangle.
Ricky has to recover. The weight is
Basic styling.
263 pounds. And the
Whoa.
5-speed, power to weight ratio, that's okay.
Yeah.
Not great, but still frisky. $7,000. Hand-built.
I'm sorry, how much?
$7,000.
Oh, okay, 7. I think
Hand-built, low seat height. And if you want to make a statement at the local bar, Janus Motorcycles,
certain angles,
Goshen,
this thing,
Indiana.
I mean, it looks like an outdoor lantern. I mean, this is one basic design.
It is very basic motorcycling. They have 8 guys building these at the moment. Devin Biak and Richard Warsham are the founders of the
Hey,
company.
this is a rigid. I don't even see rear suspension on this thing.
It's very, very straight up. Very straight up. Open, honest, light, agile, and has the aerodynamics of a farm implement.
I was just going to say, should have called it the Preparation H. This thing's a rigid. I don't know, man.
Founded on the belief that the spirit of motorcycling is best understood on a small, lightweight machine that honors timeless styling.
Now, Mike Wolf, from the Pickers program, would love this thing. I mean, this is his kind of bike.
It's not about efficiency, it's about the experience.
Ooh.
But
Ooh.
obviously, our next road test is exactly that. You know, Rick, we just sat in something. Not sat, we drove.
We drove.
We drove around,
By
and
the
that
way-
included Spencer in the bright yellow shirt, by the way. We drove around in another 3-wheeler. This is the second 3-wheeler this year,
Yeah.
right? Our first one was
Slingshot.
Polaris Slingshot
Yep.
a few months ago. That is a rear-wheel drive 3-wheeler. This happens to be a front-wheel drive 3-wheeler that we did, the Vanderhall. But, what's worth talking about is, in fact, it's become kind of a crowded market in this
Isn't that amazing?
market segment. Polaris Slingshot, Morgan's, of course. Morgan's still in there. You can buy a 3-wheeler. It's going to cost you $50,000.
It may be the most expensive of the 3-wheelers, yeah.
Tandem Invader. It's a Suzuki Hayabusa.
Ooh, that one's
Rear
probably
engine,
pretty
rear wheel
fast.
drive,
Yeah.
very fast, $55,000. A T-Rex, a Campagna T-Rex, I
Got
believe
to
it's
tell you,
out
pretty zoomy looking thing, by the way.
out of Canada, very zoomy. They've tried different engines in this. $58,000.
I think the Hayabusa's been in that thing too, by the way.
They have high horsepower. This guy's not holding back at all. Polaris Slingshot, very plastic. They were 22. How high do you think we got
I
on
think
ours?
you could get up to either the very high 4s or the early 50s.
I think as high as
Early 50s.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
That's loaded Polaris Slingshot. That was really a lot of plastic, zoomy design, kind of Batmobile. If
kind
you
of
will.
an exoskeletal thing, and it
It felt like a Hot Wheels that was too big.
yeah. Good point.
Of course, another one that tried to come to market was Elio. Elio would have been playing in this field,
Yeah.
but isn't.
No.
As we are talking about this, let's see. A couple weeks ago, there was a recent announcement. I don't know what the announcement is about a Corbin Sparrow EV.
Okay, now that's come and gone. Sounds like it might
It's
be
going to
coming
be back.
again. Yeah.
It's going to be back as an electric vehicle. Corbin Sparrow, 3-wheel, fully enclosed vehicle, much like the Elio
In
design.
motorcycle accessories, that's a very famous name, by the way.
Naturally, you have another one which is more motorcycle based, where you sit on it, not in it side by side.
You about Can-Am?
You sit on it. Can-Am Spider.
Yeah.
Now you've seen quite a few Can-Am
I've
Spiders.
seen quite a few because there's a lot of rental fleets have them. They advertise pretty aggressively too, particularly on Velocity. It's a whole different mindset though, as opposed to sitting down in particularly like the one we just drove. Now, we did not leave disappointed with Slingshot. We actually thought it was pretty fun. But as like anything, like wine tasting or cheese tasting, as you get into the more sophisticated stuff, you really begin to see, wow, these really can be quite nice.
You know, it's about comparison. Frankly, that's one of the few three-wheel vehicles I had ever driven, a Polaris Slingshot, until today.
Right.
Now there's a whole new standard.
No, yeah, the Delta moved a lot today.
But let's go to break and get to our road test of the Vanderhall Motors Venice is the name of the model that we just drove. Let's take care of that. Rick.
AM/FM, we'll be right back. Appreciate it. And welcome back to Driver's Talk. I'm Rick Titus. Of course, Jay Dalton and Spencer Crick are here with me at Shelby American, just off the Las Vegas Strip here in Las Vegas. Tours are free. You got to pop on by. They got a great museum. It's fun to go out on the factory floor and see how many cars they're building, trucks and Cobra continuation cars and on and on and on. And a really good gift shop. Really a fun place to come to. And you can leave here not spending a penny if you choose not to. You don't have to pay to park and you don't have to pay to tour. You can self-guide or they give 2 tours a day for perfectly free. All that said, we're in the middle of a little bit of a surprise situation for us, Jay. We really had never given three-wheel vehicle anything much consideration. Because we're fans of British sports cars, I guess we kind of supported the notion that Morgan continue on, but with never any intent of owning one or even driving one.
Much less a Reliant Robin.
Yeah, good point. Though they were kind of cute, but in any event, three wheels had just really not entered our vocabulary much at all. Then, of course, Elio comes along, makes big promises, and a pretty promising vehicle, if only he could have brought it to market, I don't know, 4.5, 5 years ago when we first tested it. Of course, that still sits stagnant with anyway, I don't think it's going to happen, but maybe. Sure hope so. I have a deposit on one. But now all of a sudden...
Let's jump in here just for a second. Let's clear up a bit of Elio nonsense. Elio continues to send out press releases and emails and newsletters every week.
Every week.
Like nothing's wrong.
And there's a lot wrong.
There's a lot wrong. Yeah. Not only have they had facilities problems where their facilities are not filled, but there's lawsuits all over the place now, class action suits about trying to get deposits back. And
well, 65,000 deposits, anywhere between $500 and $1,000. It's a lot of money. That's been burnt through. 8 prototypes got built. They sit in different vendors' shops, probably leaned because of the development those vendors were doing. The owner is an engineer. He's not a businessman, and he has a huge ego, refused to take advice from people who really could have helped him. So,
but one person that did help him is our friend, Jerome Vassallo.
Held him a lot. Yeah.
Jerome Vassallo got all of those deposits, went around the country
by hand-to-hand guerrilla marketing,
and was very successful in staging the arrival, ready for the arrival of this car. Well,
with the sincere intent at his end that it was going to get built.
Well, yes. Nevertheless, Jerome is a hero in this thing, and now he's been recognized by other manufacturers for his experience in getting this done. So Jerome contacts us, and he's now working for Vanderhall. Who is Vanderhall? Ooh. Stephen Hall, who had a huge exotic car dealership in the Salt Lake City area, spent his own money, developed his own car over the last 5 to 8 years. I should say three-wheel vehicle. Autocycle is what I should say, right? So unlike others that we have seen, he's now selling cars and producing them every week.
Yep.
Autocycles.
Now, Paul Elio, who was easy to be very angry with because he shattered a lot of dreams and he hurt some people's lives, but the one big thing he did do for this industry is he got most of the states in this country to agree to go to the term autocycle, not require a motorcycle license, and in a lot of cases not require one to wear a helmet. So he did the industry a huge help, and filling in behind him in that void where he's not building a car, others now are. But boy, I didn't expect the standard to come up so quick.
Well, now all of a sudden we have competitors.
Yeah.
So we have a number of people in this in this game. About 6 different competitors in this game if you want to make a 3-wheeled statement. If you want to drive something that's completely unique without a helmet, without a motorcycle license, and
sometimes that term that's related to that is called endorsement. You don't have to have an endorsement on your license. So you'll hear that term. I don't want you to get confused by they're saying, hey, this is good or do it. In a lot of states, it's referred to as a motorcycle endorsement.
So a few minutes ago, Jerome swings up with a Vanderhall Venice, parks it outside, and says, boys, would you like a ride?
Take a drive.
Yes, we would.
Yeah, that'd be us.
So in we jump.
Yep.
Rick, the first thing first of all, it is retro looking with all modern materials. A brand new General Motors, they don't want you to know that. General Motors VVTi inline 1.4 liter turbocharged motor, 200 horsepower. The first thing that caught me, other than the quality of the craftsmanship that I was sitting in, was the sound of this motor.
This thing sounds good.
It's neat.
It's never sounded that good in anything else we've driven with it.
No. You would not hear this in a Cobalt.
No. No.
They've worked on the wastegate. They've worked on the turbocharger. They've worked on the exhaust system, and it is snappy, lively, fun, and the noise is terrific, especially when you stomp on it.
It's a good noise, yeah. Good
Very nice. Okay, what was your impressions when you got into this vehicle, Rick?
I got to say, the term that jumped out to me the fastest, because it's been lacking in some others, is solidarity. The thing just feels so well built. Immediately following that, because I had to leave a parking lot, so I ended up using the brakes before I used the throttle real hard. This thing's got brakes. It really will slow down. I liked the ergonomics. I liked how comfortable the thing felt. I mean, I really could spend a lot of time in it. It did mess with my dew. I'm a little upset with that because I spent a lot of time on my hair.
This one has a windshield.
It does have a windshield, and I would insist on that. And then I was stunned at how quick it is. This thing does not sit around.
It does not sit around. It's 1,550 pounds. By the time you put a couple of guys in it, it will still give you less, like about 9.5 pounds per horsepower. Under 10 is exciting stuff.
Yeah.
That's the delta. Is 10?
Yeah, it is for
10
fun.
pounds per horsepower for fun. It has a terrific acceleration. We had Spencer and I took it out, and we had the joy of going down Las Vegas Boulevard in one direction, seeing a Polaris slingshot go by in the other direction, quickly spinning around and doing a side-by-side with a Polaris slingshot.
Oh, no
I'm
kidding.
not joking. This happened 30 minutes ago.
Yeah.
So the guy is going like, hey, honking his horn, thumbs up, man, that looks great. It's a completely different styling exercise than Polaris.
Right.
You want to go into that?
Well, again, the minute we get to styling, Jay, it becomes subjective. I think a number of these have taken on the Game Boy kind of look. The extracurricular, that's not coming out of my mouth real clean today, but having said that, and more, I don't know, Spencer, I'm on the verge of cartoonish.
Yes,
yes.
Like I said before, it looked like a Hot Wheels car that the Polaris did.
Yeah.
It looked like a Hot Wheels car that someone said,
Don't get me wrong, we didn't dislike the Polaris.
It was still fun.
It was still a lot of fun, but it didn't seem to take itself nearly as seriously as this thing does.
Sharp edges.
This one's way better.
Yeah.
Sharp edges, folds in the way it was put together.
Yep.
It had a big flare up at the rear wheel where it looked kind of like a wing, like a bat wing, where it hid the rear wheel with this.
You talking about the Polaris right now, or are you talking about?
I'm talking about the Polaris. The Polaris looks like the future. The Vanderhall looks like the past. It looks like a Formula One car from about the 50s.
Oh, a Lotus 18, yeah.
or early Ferrari, even with big opening in the front for the radiator on it. It is a hint of the past. It sounds like a race car for the street.
Yep.
My only criticism would be that it is about 6 inches less wide than the Polaris. Spencer and I were shoulder to shoulder. We were right there, so it's not very wide.
But on the right date, that could be good.
If you two guys, I mean, it's not fair to have two guys our size side by side in this car.
My only criticism, Jay, was I thought the steering was too slow. But because of the market, maybe they're smart to keep that steering a little slower. I would have liked it to be a little faster on the steering.
The very first thing, you can tell we're at Shelby's with that noise in the background. The very first thing I tested was in the parking lot. I did a quick 180-degree turn just to see what the turning radius was like. It wasn't fabulous, but it was okay. It's front-wheel drive. It's not any worse than a Honda Civic would be.
It's a front-wheel drive with very large tires. I mean, those tires are wide. That rear tire is humongo.
Now let's be clear about the advantages of a front-wheel drive three-wheeler. First, the drive wheel isn't in the center of the road. What else is in the center of the road? The oil. Yeah. Dropped by everybody.
Well, you and Cam Benny, when testing the Polaris, found that out the hard way.
Yes, started to rain, and it was a very interesting ride. You could hardly accelerate that vehicle without wheel spin. Well, you don't have that problem with a Vanderhall. No. Not at all.
The drive tires sit where everybody else's drive tires are. Spencer, what are you thinking?
Well, if you'd like to find out more about this vehicle, go to vanderhallusa.com. And if you're not looking for a toy or you don't want to spend any money, don't go there.
Yeah, I was going to say don't go.
Because, oh man, is this thing fun.
It is. I really was up for a longer ride, but I knew that he had to get onto other meetings, our buddy Jerome. But I look forward to spending a little more time on that thing.
They're going to have dealerships. They already have. Did he say 40 dealerships, I think?
No, that's the goal.
The goal is 40 dealerships.
Yep.
They have a number of dealerships already in the West. Now, the trick is this a power sport vehicle? Is this a sports car? Is this a motorcycle? Where do you end up trying to sell this? It's got kind of
me, that
weird paradox.
Tricky. Yeah.
Weird paradox, but look for Vanderhall. Once you see one, you will never forget it because it looks like an old Grand Prix car, double roll bar hoops, exhaust out the side, three wheels, terribly big tires.
I'll tell you what, if you want to be ignored, this ain't the vehicle of choice. When we went out to get in, there was at least 6 people around it. It gets a lot of attention.
Oh, that it does. VanderhallUSA.com.
What we're going to do next time we're together, we're going to go ahead and drive it. We will take you on board with us with our GoPro and let you get a real sense of this thing. This one's a lot of fun. I look forward to driving it more. All that said, on behalf of all 3 of us and certainly those associated with this program and for the folks here at Shelby American, we wish you open roads and safe motoring.
Thanks for watching Drivers Talk Radio. If you're watching this on YouTube, click that subscribe button and never miss a video. Or if you'd like to check out more, click on that video to the right. We'll see you on the next one.